श्री गोविंद गोपीनाथ मदन मोहन जू की जय। नित्य विष्णु विष्णुपाद अष्टोत्तर शतनाम श्रील भक्ति वेदांत नारायण गोसाई महाराज श्रील गुरु की जय। नित्य विष्णु विष्णुपाद अष्टोत्तर शतनाम श्रील भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी महाराज श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। नित्य विष्णु विष्णुपाद अष्टोत्तर शतनाम श्रील भक्ति प्रज्ञान केशव गोसाई महाराज की जय। नित्य विष्णु विष्णुपाद अष्टोत्तर शतनाम श्रील भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोसाई प्रभुपाद की जय। नित्य विष्णु महाभागवत श्रील गोरक्षरस बाबाजी महाराज की जय। नित्य विष्णु श्रील सच्चिदानंद भक्ति विनोद ठाकुर की जय। नित्य विष्णु वैष्णव सार्वभौम श्रील जगन्नाथ दास बाबाजी महाराज की जय। श्री रूप गौरिया गुरु वर्ग की जय। श्री रूप सनातन भट्ट रघुनाथ श्री जीव गोपाल दास गुना शार गोसाई प्रभु की जय। श्री स्वरूप दामोदर राय रामानंदारी श्री गौर पार्षद वृंद की जय। नाम चय रस ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासरी गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। श्री क्षेत्र मंडल गौर मंडल ब्रज मंडल मथुरा वृंदावन धाम की जय। सर्व अभिष्ट प्रदाता गिरिराज महाराज की जय। श्री राधा कुंड श्याम कुंड की जय। श्री यमुना देवी गंगा देवी की जय। श्री तुलसी महारानी वृंद देवी की जय। श्री भक्ति देवी की जय। श्री पूर्णमासी योगमाया की जय। श्री गोपेश्वर महादेव की जय। श्री हरि नाम संकीर्तन की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। श्री अद्वैत शक्ति श्री सीता ठाकुरानी की जय। तदीय शुभ आविर्भाव तिथि की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। समागत गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। श्री निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। ओम ज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। नमो ॐ विष्णुपदाय राधिकाय प्रियात्मने श्रीमद्भक्तिवेदान्त नारायणति नामिने। नमो ॐ विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने। वंशकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। नमो महावदन्याय कृष्णप्रेमप्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्णचैतन्य नाम्ने गौरतिशे नमः। गुरुवे गौरचन्द्राय राधिकाय तदालये कृष्णाय कृष्णभक्ताय तद्भक्ताय नमो नमः। यं प्रव्रजन्तम् अनुपेतमपेतकृत्यं द्वैपायनो विरहकातर आजुहाव पुत्रेति तन्मयतया तरवोऽभिनेदुस्तं सर्वभूतहृदयं मुनिमानतोऽस्मि। नारायणं नमस्कृतं नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। शृण्वतं स्वकथा कृष्ण पुण्यश्रवणकीर्तनं हृदन्तस्थो ह्यभद्राणि विधुनोति सुहृत्सतम्। नष्टप्रयेष्ववद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवत्युत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी। तवैवास्मि न जीवामि त्वया विना इति विज्ञाय राधे त्वां नायमां चरणान्तिकम्। भक्त्या विहीना अपराधलक्षय क्षिप्ताष्टकामादितरङ्गमध्ये कृपामयि त्वं शरणं प्रपन्ना वृन्दे नमस्ते चरणारविन्दम्। भज श्रीकृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानन्द श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासरि गौर भक्तवृन्द। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Dandavat pranams Gargaraj ji, Raseshwari Mataji, Ganga Didi, and Rup Manjari Didi. Dandavat pranams to all of you. Alright, so yesterday I kind of had no idea what was going on most of the time. I wasn't really following, just, I don't know, because I have a dull brain and it was just, but anyways, I think seeing this will make it more easy to understand the family, what do you call it? Whatever. So, although Daksha became disgusted with household life, Lord Brahma instructed him to beget children again. This time, Daksha was very cautious to beget daughters instead of sons, so that Narad would not disturb them for accepting the renounced order. So, Daksha and Asikni, they gave birth to 60 daughters. 10 of those daughters married Yamaraj. 17 of those daughters married Kashyapa. 27 of those daughters married the moon god, and 2 daughters each married Angira. So 2 daughters married Angira, 2 daughters married Krishashva, and 2 daughters married Bhuta. So let's go through this. So first, 10 daughters married to Yamaraj. So Yamaraj's 10 wives. Bhanu gave birth to Devarishaba, Lamba to Vidyota, who gave birth to the clouds, interesting, huh? Then Kakur, Sankatakika to Durga, Yami, Swarga, and Nandi, Swarga, then Nandi, Vishva, the Vishvadevs, they had no progeny. Sadhya gave birth to Sadyas, and who gave birth to Artasiddhi. Marutvati gave birth to Marutvan and Jayanta. And Rup Manjari, you're asking yesterday if this Upendra is a Vamandev, but it says Jayanta is an expansion of Lord Vasudev called Upendra, but different from Vamandev. So, okay, so that's Jayanta. Then Muhurta gave birth to the Muhurtikas, who deliver the fruits of actions to the Jivas. Then Sankalpa gave birth to Sankalpa, who gave birth to Kam, lust. And then Vasu, the 8 Vasus, Drona, Prana, Dhruva, Arka, Agni, Dosha, Vastu, and Vibhavasu. So that was the last son. Sorry, that's his wife gave birth to the 8 Vasus. Interesting, okay. His wife Vasu gave birth to the 8 Vasus. Alright? So then, here are the descendants of the 8 Vasus now. So we're still in Yamaraja's line. His 10th wife gave birth to the 8 Vasus. Now, descendants of the 8 Vasus. So the first Vasu, Drona, married Abhimati, and they gave birth to Harsha, Shoka, Bhaya, and others. Harsha means happiness, Shoka means distress, Bhaya means fear, and there's others. Then the son, the Vasu named Pran, married Bṛhaspati, and they gave birth to Saha, Ayus, Purujava. Dhruva and Dharani gave birth to various cities. Vasana and Arka gave birth to Tarsha and others. Agni and Dhara gave birth to Dravinaka and others. Agni and Kritika gave birth to Skanda or Kartikeya, who gave birth to Vishaka and others. Kartikeya, really. Then Dosha and Sharvari gave birth to Shishumara, who is an expansion of the Supreme Lord. And then Vastu and Angirasi gave birth to Vishvakarma, who married Akriti and gave birth to Chakshusha Manu, from whom the Vishvadevs and Sadhyas. So, Okay. Because also Yamaraja's sixth wife, Yamaraja's fifth wife, Vishva, gave birth to the Vishvadevs. But now, I guess there's two sets of Vishvadevs, huh? Because Vastu and Angirasi gave birth to the Vishvadevs. Anyways. Then Vibhavasu and Usha gave birth to Vyushta, Rochisa, Atapa. And from Atapa came Panchayama, who is a span of a day that awakens everyone to material activities. Alright, so that was the line of Yamaraj. Now we come to the line of, we're going to go through these now, the bottom one. 2 daughters married to Angira, 2 daughters married to Krishashva, and 2 daughters married to Bhuta. So let's go there. So Bhuta's 2 wives and their descendants. Sarupa, Bhuta's wife Sarupa gave birth to 10 million Rudras, of whom the 11 principal Rudras were Raivata, Ajapava, Bhima, Vama, Ugra, Rishakapi, Ajay Kapat, Ahir, whatever. Anyways, I'm not going to read out everything. Then his second wife gave birth to the Pretas and the Vinayakas. Those are the associates of the Rudras. Pretas is also like ghost, isn't it? Like one type of ghost. And then Angira's 2 wives, Swadha gave birth to the Pitris, and Sati gave birth to the Atharvangirasa Veda. Then Krishashva's 2 wives, Archis gave birth to Dhumaketu, and Dishana gave birth to Veda Shira, Devala, Vayuna, and Manu. Alright, so now we went through here, these 6 daughters. Now we're going to go through the 17 daughters married to Kashyapa. Daksha's 17 daughters married to Kashyapa. Okay, so the first 4 of the 16 wives of Kashyapa's wives was Patangi, who gave birth to many kinds of birds, Yamini, who gave birth to locusts, Vinata, who gave birth to Garuda, and Aruna, or Anuru, who is the driver of the sun god. That's also like, it's called Aruna. When you see the sun rise, but you haven't yet seen the sun, you just see the sun shine in the morning time. That's called Aruna. That's the chariot driver of the sun god. And then Kadru, the 4th wife Kadru, gave birth to different varieties of serpents. And now it's going to the 27 daughters married to the moon god. And then it's going to go back to Kashyapa again. So 27 daughters of the moon god let's see. Okay, the moon had no offspring. Okay, the 27 constellations, Kritika, etc., were all the wives of the moon god. Because he was very attached to one wife, Rohini, and he neglected the others, Daksha cursed him and caused his gradual destruction. Thus the moon god could not beget children. Thereafter, he pacified Daksha and regained the portions of lights that he had lost during his disease. During the dark fortnight, he loses his shining power, and during the bright fortnight, it manifests again. Wait a second. So the 27 constellations are the daughters of Daksha. That's interesting, huh? Who's married to the moon god. And that's why the moon becomes smaller and becomes bigger, the waxing and waning. It's because of the curse and then benediction of Daksha. Okay, now we're going back to Kashyapa again. Kashyapa, so we went through 4 wives of Kashyapa. Now we're going through 10 more wives. So Kashyapa's wife Timi gave birth to aquatics. Sarama gave birth to ferocious animals like the tigers and lions. Surabhi gave birth to cows and other animals with cloven hooves. Tamara gave birth to eagles, vultures, and other large birds of prey. Muni gave birth to the apsaras, the angels. Krodavasha gave birth to the serpents known as the Dandashuka, other serpents, and the mosquitoes. Ila gave birth to various creepers and trees. Surasa gave birth to the Rakshasas. Arishta gave birth to the Gandharvas. And Kashta gave birth to animals whose hooves are not split, such as horses. So now we've gone through 14 wives of Kashyapa. Now there's 3 more, right? Yeah. Okay. Okay, so now Kashyapa's 15th wife, Danu. She gives birth to 61 sons, of whom 18 are very important. Tvimurdra, Shambhara, Arishta, Hayagriva, Vibhavasu, Ayomukha, Shankushira, Swarbhanu, Kapila, Aruna, Puloma, Vrishaparva, Ekachakra, Anutapana, Dhumrakesha, Virupaksha, Viprachiti, and Durjaya. Okay, so now Swarbhanu, which is in bold here, he gave birth to Suprabhra, who married Namruchi. Then Vrishaparva gave birth to Sharmishta and King Yayati. Okay, and then hey, who's Vaishvanara? I don't even see it here. Interesting. Anyways, Vaishvanara gave birth to 4 daughters, Upadanavi, Hayashira, Puloma, and Kalaka. And Viprachiti married Simhaka, and she gave birth to 101 sons, 1 Rahu, who was the eldest, and 100 Ketus. They all attained positions as planets. Okay, so that was Kashyapa's 15th wife. Now let's see his 16th wife. Kashyapa married Aditi, who gave birth to the 12 Adityas: Vivaswan, Aryama, Pusha, Twashta, Savita, Bhaga, Dhata, Vidata, Varuna, Mitra, Shatru, and Urukrama. So Vivaswan is the sun god, and the sun god gave birth to Samgya and Chaya. And Samgya gave birth to, so Vivaswan's wife Samgya gave birth to Shadadev, Manu, and the twins Yamaraj and the river Yamuna. Right, so Yamuna and Yamaraj, they're brother and sister, and their father is Vivaswan, the sun god. I didn't know that their mother is Samgya. That's good to know. Yamuna's mother is Samgya. Yamaraja's mother is Samgya. And then from, I guess, Yamaraj? Okay, and yeah, they're twins also. Yamaraj and Yamuna are twins. Then, I don't know. Anyways, Yami in the form of a mare gave birth to the twin Ashwini Kumars. But whose daughter is Yami? I don't know. It must be Yamaraj's daughter. Anyways, I don't know. And then, yeah. So, Yami, mare, gave birth to the twin Ashwini Kumars. Then, Vivaswan, the sun god's wife, married Chaya, and she gave birth to 2 sons, Shanaishchar, which was Saturn, and Savarni Manu. And she also gave birth to 1 daughter, Tapati, who married Samvaran. Who's Samvaran? I recognize Samvaran. Anyways, Samvaran. Is that the year? No, I can't remember. Anyways, so now, okay, so Aditi's son, Aryama, he married Matrika, who gave birth to many learned scholars, and also the human species, endowed with an aptitude for self-examination, created by Lord Brahma. Okay, so we're coming from Aryama and Matrika, from Aditi. Okay, now Pusha. Pusha, whose teeth were, so then Kashyapa and Aditi's son Pusha, his teeth were broken for laughing at Lord Shiva. He had no sons. Then Twashta was, the Kashyapa and Aditi's son Twashta was married to Rachana. What does D-O stand for? Anyways, we're going to be reading about this. And it gave birth to Sannivesha and Vishvarupa. She's the daughter of, I'm guessing, yes, that's what it is. Daughter of the Daitas. So she's a Daita, a demon, a type of demon. We're going to be hearing about Vishvarupa soon. So, note, the remaining descendants of Aditi are mentioned in chapter 18, right now we're on chapter 7, verses 1 through 9. Kashyapa had one more wife, Diti, whose descendants are given in chapter 18, verses 10 through 19. Alright, so we'll hear about his 17th wife later on in chapter 18. The demigods accept Vishvarupa as their guru. Although Vishvarupa was the son of the daughter of the demons accepted him as their priest. This was instructed by Brahmā when they were abandoned by their guru, Bṛhaspati, whom they had disrespected. So we're going to hear about this now, more in detail, about Vishvarupa. Right, so that's Aditi's grandson. Aditi and Kashyapa's grandson, Vishvarupa. We'll also hear about Twashta. Twashta Rachana, daughter of the Daitas, gave birth to Sannivesha and Vishvarupa. Okay, so let's begin the 7th chapter. Indra fails to respect Bṛhaspati. Oh my god, I took 26 minutes? Sorry, guys. I shouldn't have gone through all the details. Anyways, let's see how far we get. It's okay if we don't finish today because tomorrow I only have scheduled that we're going to read like 4,100 words, so we can read a little. Yeah. Okay, so chapter 7. Indra offends his spiritual master Bṛhaspati. As related in this chapter, Indra, the king of heaven, committed an offense at the feet of his spiritual master Bṛhaspati. Bṛhaspati therefore left the demigods, who then had no priest. However, at the request of the demigods, Vishvarupa, the son of the Brahman Twashta, became their priest. Indra is always offending people, isn't he? Okay, so once upon a time, Indra, the king of the demigods, was sitting with his wife Shachi Devi, and being praised by various demigods like the Siddhas, Charanas, and Gandharvas, when Bṛhaspati, the spiritual master of the demigods, entered the assembly. Indra, being too absorbed in material opulence, forgot himself, and did not respect Bṛhaspati, who thus became aware of Indra's pride in his material opulence and immediately disappeared from the assembly to teach him a lesson. Indra became most repentant, understanding that because of his opulence, he had forgotten to respect his spiritual master. He left the palace to beg pardon from his spiritual master, but could not find Bṛhaspati anywhere. Because of his disrespectful behavior toward his spiritual master, this is showing a period, but it should be a comma. Because of his disrespectful behavior toward his spiritual master, Indra lost all his opulence and was conquered by the demons, who defeated the demigods in a great fight and occupied Indra's throne. King Indra, along with the other demigods, later took shelter of Lord Brahmā. Understanding the situation, Lord Brahmā chastised the demigods for their offense to their spiritual master. Following Lord Brahma's orders, the demigods accepted Vishvarupa, who was a Brahman and the son of Twashta, as their priest. Then they performed yagyas under the priesthood of Vishvarupa and were able to conquer the demons. Shri Rajavacha. Kasya pariyakta acharyenatmana sura etar achakshva bhagavan cheshyanam akramam guru. Maharaj Parikshit inquired from Shukadeva Goswami, O great sage, why did the spiritual master of the demigods, Bṛhaspati, reject the demigods, who were his own disciples? What offense did the demigods commit against their spiritual master? Please describe to me this incident. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur comments, Saptame Guruna Taktar Devar Daitya Parajita Vishwarupa Gurutvena Vrito Brahmo Padeshata. The 7th chapter describes how Bṛhaspati was offended by the demigods, how he left them and the demigods were defeated, and how the demigods, following the instructions of Lord Brahma, accepted Vishwarupa as the priest to perform their sacrifice. Let me take it off of this view, just so that. Shri Badrayanir Uvacha Badrayanir Indrastri Bhuvanashvarya Madolankita Satpata Marudbhir Vasubhir Rudrar Adityar Ribhubhir Nripa Vishvadevyascha Sadaischa Na Satyabhyam Parishrita Siddhacharana Gandharvar Munibhir Brahmavadhibi Vedyadharas Vidyadharapsarospishcha Kinnarai Patagoragai Nishevyamano Maghavan Stuyamanascha Bharata Upagiya Mano Lalitam Anyways Astanadhasanashrita Pandurenat Tapatrena Chandra Mandala Charuna Yuktaschanyai Parameshtyais Chamara Vyajana Divi Virajamana Polamya Sahardasanaya Brisham Sayada Paramacharyam Devanam Atmanaschaha Nabhyanandata Sampraptam Pratyuttanasanadivi Vachaspatim Muniparam Surasura Namaskritam Nochalasanadindra Pashyam Api Sabhagatam. Shukadeva Goswami said, O king, once upon a time, the king of heaven Indra, being extremely proud because of his great opulence of the three worlds, transgressed the law of Vedic etiquette. Seated on his throne, he was surrounded by the Maruts, Vasus, Rudras, Adityas, Ribhus, Vishwadevs, Sadhyas, Ashwini Kumars, Siddhas, Charanas, and Gandharvas, and by great saintly persons. Also surrounding him were the Vidyadharas, the Apsaras, the Kinnaras, the Patagas, the birds, and the Uragas, the snakes. All of them were offering Indra their respects and services, and the Apsaras and Gandharvas were dancing and singing with very sweet musical instruments. Over Indra's head was a white umbrella as effulgent as the full moon. Fanned by yak-tail whisks and served with all paraphernalia of a great king, Indra was sitting with his wife Shachi Devi, who occupied half the throne, when the great sage Bṛhaspati appeared in that assembly. Bṛhaspati, the best of the sages, was the spiritual master of Indra and the demigods, and was respected by the demigods and demons alike. Everybody respects Bṛhaspati. Nevertheless, although Indra saw his spiritual master before him, he did not rise from his own seat or offer a seat to his spiritual master, nor did Indra offer him a respectful welcome. Indra did nothing to show him respect. Tato nirgatya sahasa kavir angirasa prabhu ayayo swagriham tushnim vidvan Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Bṛhaspati knew everything that would happen in the future. Seeing Indra's transgression of etiquette, he completely understood that Indra was puffed up by his material opulence. Although able to curse Indra, he did not do so. Instead, he left the assembly and in silence returned to his home. Tarheva pratibhudyendra guru helanamatmana garhayam sadhasi swayam atmanamatmana. Indra, the king of heaven, could immediately understand his mistake. Realizing he had disrespected his spiritual master, he condemned himself in the presence of all the members of the assembly. Aho bata maya sadhu kritam vaida brabhudina yan maya ishvaryamatena guru sadhasikat krita. Alas, what a regrettable deed I have committed because of my lack of intelligence and my pride in my material opulences. I failed to show respect to my spiritual master when he entered this assembly, and thus I have insulted him. Ko gridet pandito lakshmin tripishtapa paterapi yayahams asuram bhavam nitodhya vibudeshvara. Although I am king of the demigods, who are situated in the mode of goodness, I was proud of a little opulence and polluted by false ego. Under the circumstances, who in this world would accept such riches at the risk of falling down? Alas, I condemn my wealth and opulence. Purport. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu prayed to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Na dhanam na janam na sundarim kavitam va jagarisha kamaye. O my Lord, I do not aspire for material opulence or wealth, nor do I want a great number of followers to accept me as their leader, nor do I want a very beautiful wife to please me. Mama janmani janmanishvare bhavatar bhaktir ahaituki tvayi. I do not even want liberation. All I want, life after life, is to be a faithful servant of your Lordship. According to the laws of nature, when one is extremely opulent, one becomes degraded, and this is true both individually and collectively. The demigods are situated in the mode of goodness, but sometimes, even one who is situated in such an exalted position as King Indra, the king of all the demigods, falls down because of material opulence. We are now actually seeing this in America. The entire American nation has tried to advance in material opulence without striving to produce ideal human beings. The result is that Americans are now regretting the wholesale criminality of American society and are wondering how America has become so lawless and unmanageable. All these hippies. As stated in Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam 7.531, Na te vidu svarta gatim hi vishnum. Persons who are unenlightened do not know the aim of life, which is to return home back to Godhead. Therefore, both individually and collectively, they try to enjoy so-called material comforts, and they become addicted to wine and women. The men produced in such a society are less than fourth class. They are the unwanted population known as Varna Sankar, and as stated in Bhagavad Gita, an increase of Varna Sankar population creates a hellish society. This is the society in which Americans now find themselves. Fortunately, however, the Hare Krishna movement has come to America, and many fortunate young men are giving serious attention to this movement, which is creating ideal men of first-class character, men who completely refrain from meat-eating, illicit sex, intoxication, and gambling. If the American people are serious about curbing the degraded criminal life of their nation, they must take to the Krishna consciousness movement and try to create the kind of human society advised in Bhagavad Gita, Chatur Varnam Mayashishtam Guna Karma Vibhagashaha, Bhagavad Gita 14.3. They must divide their society into first-class men, second-class men, third-class men, and fourth-class men. Since they are now creating only men who are less than fourth class, how can they avoid the dangers of a criminal society? Long, long ago, Lord Indra regretted his disrespect to his spiritual master, Bṛhaspati. Similarly, it is advised that the American people regret their mistaken advancement in civilization. They should take advice from the spiritual master, the representative of Krishna. If they do so, they will be happy, and theirs will be an ideal nation to lead the entire world. Ya parameshtam dishanam aditishta kanchana pratyutishted iti bruyur dharmam te na param vidu. If a person says, "One who is situated on the exalted throne of a king should not stand up to show respect to another king or a Brahman," that person, if someone says that, it is to be understood that he does not know the superior religious principles. Purport. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says in this regard that when a president or king is sitting on his throne, he does not need to show respect to anyone who comes within his assembly, but he must show respect to superiors like his spiritual master, Brahmanas, and Vaishnavas. There are many examples how he should act. When Lord Krishna was sitting on his throne and Narad fortunately entered his assembly, even Lord Krishna immediately stood up with his officers and ministers to show respectful obeisances to Narad. Narad knew that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and Krishna knew that Narad was his devotee. But although Krishna is the Supreme Lord and Narad is the Lord's devotee, the Lord observed the religious etiquette. Since Narad was a brahmachari, a brahman, and an exalted devotee, even Krishna, while acting as a king, offered his respectful obeisances unto Narad. Such is the conduct visible in the Vedic civilization. A civilization in which the people do not know how the representative of Narad and Krishna should be respected, how society should be formed, and how one should advance in Krishna consciousness, a society concerned only with manufacturing new cars and new skyscrapers every year and then breaking them to pieces and making new ones. It may be technologically advanced, but it is not a human civilization. A human civilization is advanced when its people follow the Chaturvarnya system, the system of the 4 orders of life. There must be ideal first-class men to act as advisors, second-class men who act as administrators, third-class men to produce food and protect cows, and fourth-class men who obey the 3 higher classes of society. One who does not follow the standard system of society should be considered a 5th-class man. A society without Vedic laws and regulations will not be very helpful to humanity. As stated in this verse, Dharmam te na param vidu. Such a society does not know the aim of life and the highest principle of religion. Tesham kupata deshturinam patatam tamasi hyada yeshadadyur vachastes te vai marjantashma plava iva. Leaders who have fallen into ignorance and who mislead people by directing them to the path of destruction, as described in the previous verse, are, in effect, boarding a stone boat, and so too are those who blindly follow them. A stone boat would be unable to float and would sink in the water with its passengers. Similarly, those who mislead people go to hell, and their followers go with them. As stated in the Vedic literature, Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam 10:20-17. Videham adyam sulabam sadurlabam plavam sukalpam gurukarnadharam. We, the conditioned souls, have fallen into the ocean of nescience, but the human body fortunately provides us a good opportunity to cross the ocean because the human body is like a very good boat. When directed by a spiritual master acting as the captain, the boat can very easily cross the ocean. Furthermore, the boat is helped across by favorable winds, which are the instructions of Vedic knowledge. If one does not take advantage of all these facilities to cross the ocean of nescience, he is certainly committing suicide. One who boards a boat made of stone is doomed. To be elevated to the stage of perfection, Humanity must first give up false leaders who present boats of stone. All of human society is in such a dangerous position that to be rescued. All of human society is in such a dangerous position that to be rescued, it must abide by the standard instructions of the Vedas. The cream of these instructions appears in the form of Bhagavad Gita. One should not take shelter of any other instructions, for Bhagavad Gita gives direct instructions on how to fulfill the aim of life. Lord Shri Krishna therefore says, Sarva dharmam parityaja mam ekam sharanam vraja. Give up all other processes of religion and simply surrender unto me. Even if one does not accept Lord Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his instructions are so exalted and beneficial for humanity that if one follows his instructions, one will be saved. Otherwise, one will be cheated by unauthorized meditation and gymnastic methods of yoga. Thus, one will board a boat of stone, which will sink and drown all its passengers. Unfortunately, although the American people are extremely eager to get out of materialistic chaos, they are sometimes found to patronize the makers of stone boats. That will not help them. They must take the proper boat offered by Krishna in the form of the Krishna consciousness movement. Then they will be easily saved. In this regard, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur comments, Ashma maya plavo yesham te yata majatam plavam anu majanti tateti raja nityupadeshtrishu swasabhyeshu kopa vyanjita. If society is guided by political diplomacy, with one nation maneuvering against another, it will certainly sink like a stone boat. Political maneuvering and diplomacy will not save human society. People must take to Krishna consciousness to understand the aim of life, to understand God, and to fulfill the human mission. Ataham amaracharyam agadadishanam dvijam prasadayishye nishata shishna tacharanam sprishan. King Indra said, Therefore, with great frankness and without duplicity, I shall now bow my head at the lotus feet of Bṛhaspati, the spiritual master of the demigods. Because he is in the mode of goodness, he is fully aware of all knowledge and is the best of the Brahmins. Now I shall touch his lotus feet and offer my obeisances unto him to try to satisfy him. Purport. Coming to his senses, King Indra realized that he was not a very sincere disciple of his spiritual master Bṛhaspati. Therefore he decided that henceforward he would be a nishata. He would be nishata, non-duplicitous. Nishata shirshna tat charanam sprishan. He decided to touch his head to the feet of his spiritual master. From this example, we should learn this principle enunciated by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Yasya prasadar bhagava prasado, yasya prasada nagati kutopi. By the mercy of the spiritual master, one is benedicted by the mercy of Krishna. Without the grace of the spiritual master, one cannot make any advancement. A disciple should never be a hypocrite or be unfaithful to his spiritual master. In Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam 11:17-27, the spiritual master is also called Acharya. Acharya mam vijaniyam. The Supreme Personality of Godhead says that one should respect the spiritual master, accepting him as the Lord himself. Navamanyeta karhichit. One should not disrespect the Acharya at any time. Namartya buddha suyeta. One should never think the Acharya to be an ordinary person. Familiarity sometimes breeds contempt, but one should be very careful in one's dealings with the Acharya. Agadha dishanam dvijam. The Acharya is a perfect Brahman and has unlimited intelligence in guiding the activities of his disciple. Therefore, Krishna advises in Bhagavad Gita 4:34, Tarviri pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattva darshanaha. Just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master. Inquire from him submissively and render service unto him. The self-realized soul can impart knowledge unto you because he has seen the truth. One should fully surrender unto the spiritual master, and with service, sevaya, one should approach him for further spiritual enlightenment. Evam chintayatastasya maghono bhagavan Bṛhaspatir gato drishtan gatim adhyatma mayaya. While Indra, the king of demigods, thought in this way and repented in his own assembly, Bṛhaspati, the most powerful spiritual master, understood his mind. Thus he became invisible to Indra and left home for Thus he became invisible to Indra and left home, for Bṛhaspati was spiritually more powerful than King Indra. Gurur nadhigata samgyan parikshan bhagavan swarat dhyayanti asurar yukta sharmanala bhatatmana. Although Indra searched vigorously with the assistance of other demigods, he could not find Bṛhaspati. Then Indra thought, "Alas, my spiritual master has become dissatisfied with me, and now I have no means of achieving good fortune." Although Indra was surrounded by demigods, he could not find peace of mind. Tatshrutvaivasura sarva ashrityoshana sammatam devam pratyudyamam chakrur durmada attatayina. Hearing of the pitiable condition of King Indra, the demons, following the instructions of their guru Shukracharya, equipped themselves with weapons and declared war against the demigods. Starting to feel a little bit, I think I can go on longer. Now I'm going to stand up. 1 second. Oh, Krishna. 1 second. There. All right. Tar vishishte shubhistikshnar nirbhinam guru bhava brahmanam sharanam jagmu sahendra natakandara. The demigods' heads, thighs, and arms, and the other parts of their bodies were injured by the sharp arrows of the demons. The demigods, headed by Indra, saw no other course than to immediately approach Lord Brahma with bowed heads for shelter and proper instruction. Tang sata bhyarditam viksha bhagavan atmabhur aja kripaya paraya deva uvacha parisantavyam santvayam. When the most powerful Lord Brahma saw the demigods coming toward him, their bodies gravely injured by the arrows of the demons, he pacified them by his great causeless mercy and spoke as follows. Shri Brahma uvacha aho bata shura shrishta hya bhadram va kritam mahat brahmishtam brahmanam dantam aishvaryan nabhyanandata. Lord Brahma said, "O best of the demigods, unfortunately, because of madness resulting from your material opulence, you failed to receive Bṛhaspati properly when he came to your assembly. Because he is aware of the Supreme Brahman and fully in control of his senses, he is the best of the Brahmans. Therefore, it is very astonishing that you have acted impudently toward him." Purport. Lord Brahma recognized the Brahminical qualifications of Bṛhaspati, who was the spiritual master of the demigods, because of his awareness of the Supreme Brahman. Bṛhaspati was very much in control of his senses and minds, and therefore he was a most qualified Brahman. Lord Brahma chastised the demigods for not properly respecting this Brahman, who was their guru. Lord Brahma wanted to impress upon the demigods that one's guru should not be disrespected under any circumstances. When Bṛhaspati entered the assembly of the demigods, they and their king Indra took him for granted. Since he came every day, they thought they did not need to show him special respect. It is said, familiarity breeds contempt. Being very much displeased, Bṛhaspati immediately left Indra's palace. Thus all the demigods headed by Indra became offenders at the lotus feet of Bṛhaspati, and Lord Brahma, being aware of this, condemns their neglect. In a song we sing every day, Narottam Das Thakur says, Chakshudan dilaje janme janme prabhu she. The Guru gives spiritual insight to the disciple, and therefore the Guru should be considered his master life after life. Under no circumstances should the Guru be disrespected. But the demigods, being puffed up by their material possessions, were disrespectful to their Guru. Therefore, Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam 11:17-27 advises, Acharya mam vijaniyam navamaneta karhichit namartya bhudasuyeta sarvadeva mayo guru. The Acharya should always be offered respectful obeisances. One should never envy the Acharya, considering him an ordinary human being. Tasyayam anayayasit parebhyo va parabhava prakshinebhya svavairebhya samvriddhanam chayatsura. Because of your misbehavior toward Bṛhaspati, you have been defeated by the demons. My dear demigods, since the demons were weak, having been defeated by you several times, how else could you, who are so advanced in opulence, be defeated by them? Purport. The Devas are celebrated for fighting with the Asuras perpetually. In such fights, the Asuras were always defeated, but this time the demigods were defeated. Why? The reason, as stated here, was that they had offered their spiritual master. The reason, as stated here, was that they had offended their spiritual master. Their impudent disrespect of their spiritual master was the cause of their defeat by the demons. As stated in the Shastras, when one disrespects a respectable superior, one loses his longevity and the results of his pious activities, and in this way one is degraded. Magavan dvishata pasya prakshinam gurvati kramat sampratyupachitan bhuya kavyam aradya bhaktita adadiran nilayanam mamapi brigudevata. O Indra, your enemies, the demons, were extremely weak because of their disrespect towards Shukracharya. But since they have now worshipped Shukracharya with great devotion, they have again become powerful. By their devotion to Shukracharya, they have increased their strength so much that now they are even able to easily seize my abode from me. Wow. They could seize Lord Brahma's abode from him? Purport. Lord Brahma wanted to point out to the demigods that by the strength of the Guru, one can become the most powerful within this world. And by the displeasure of the Guru, one can lose everything. This is confirmed by the song of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Yasya prasadad bhagavat prasado, Yasya prasadad nagati kutopi. By the mercy of the spiritual master, one is benedicted by the mercy of Krishna. Without the grace of the spiritual master, one cannot make any advancement. Although the demons are insignificant in comparison to Lord Brahma, because of the strength of their Guru, they were so powerful that they could even seize Brahmaloka from Lord Brahma. We therefore pray to the spiritual master, Mukham karoti vachalam, pangung langhayate girim, yat kripa tamaham vande, Shri Gurung dinataranam. By the mercy of the Guru, even a dumb man can become the greatest orator, and even a lame man can cross mountains. As advised by Lord Brahma, one should remember the Shastra conjunction if one desires success in his life. Tripishtapam kim ganayantabedya mantra bhrigunam anushikshitartha na vipra govinda gavishvaranam bhavanta bhadrani nareshvaranam. Because of their firm determination to follow the instructions of Shukracharya, his disciples, the demons, are now unconcerned about the demigods. In fact, kings or others who have determined faith in the mercy of the Brahmins, cows, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna, and who always worship these three, are always strong in their position. Purport. From the instructions of Lord Brahma, it is understood that everyone should very faithfully worship the Brahmins, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the cows. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is Go Brahmana Hitaya Cha. He is always very kind to cows and Brahmins. Therefore, one who worships Govinda must satisfy him by worshipping the Brahmins and cows. If a government worships the Brahmanas, the cows, and Krishna, Govinda, it is never defeated anywhere. Otherwise, it must always be defeated and condemned everywhere. At the present moment, all over the world, governments have no respect for the Brahmins, cows, and Govinda, and consequently, there are chaotic conditions all over the world. In summary, although the demigods were very powerful in material opulence, the demons defeated them in battle because the demigods had behaved disrespectfully toward a Brahman, Bṛhaspati, who was their spiritual master. Okay, we're ending with this verse here. Tad Vishwarupam Pajatashu Vipram Tapasvinam Tvashtaram Atatmavantam Sabhajitortan Savidhasyate va Yadikshamishyadvam Utasya Karma. O demigods, I instruct you to approach Vishwarup, the son of Tvashta, and accept him as your guru. He is a pure and very powerful Brahman, undergoing austerity and penances. Pleased by your worship, he will fulfill your desires, provided that you tolerate his being inclined to side with the demons. Purport. Lord Brahma advised the demigods to accept the son of Tvashta as their spiritual master, although he was always inclined toward the benefit of the asuras. That we'll find out that doesn't go very well. All right, so we're ending here for today. Let's see what we'll read tomorrow. Then the demigods speak to Vishwarupa. Vishwarupa replies to the demigods. Then Vishwarupa teaches Indra the Narayan Kavacha. And then we'll go through the Narayan Kavacha. Also, we'll do, I think, the beginning of the Narayan Kavacha tomorrow also. Yeah, we're going to read up to verse 11 tomorrow. All right. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Gaur Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Jai Shri Guru Gauranga Gandharvika Giridhari, Shri Radha Vinod Bihari Ju Ki Jai, Shri Govinda Gopinath Maran Mohan Ju Ki Jai, Nitil Pavishtam Vishnupada Ashatarashatashmad, Srila Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj, Srila Gurudev Ki Jai, Nitil Pavishtam Vishnupada Ashatarashatashmad, Srila Bhakti Vedanta Vaman Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai, Nitil Pavishtam Vishnupada Ashtatarashatashmad Srila Bhaktivedanta Vaman Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Nitila Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashtatarashatashmad Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Nitila Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashtatarashatashmad Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Nitila Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashtatarashatashmad Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada ki jai. Nitila Pravishta Mahabhagavat Srila Gorksharas Babaji Maharaj ki jai. Nitila Pravishta Srila Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur ki jai. Nitila Pravishta Vaishnav Sarvabhauma Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj ki jai. Shri Rupanu Gauriya Guru Varga ki jai. Shri Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jeev Gopal Patadash Raghunath Shad Goswami Prabhu ki jai. Shri Sarup Damodar Rai Ramanandari Shri Gaur Parshad Vrinda ki jai. Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur ki jai. प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासरी गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। श्री क्षेत्र मंडल गौर मंडल व्रज मंडल मथुर वृंदावन धाम की जय। सर्व अभिष्ट प्रदात गिरिराज महाराज की जय। श्री राधा कुंड श्याम कुंड की जय। श्री मुन देवी गंगा देवी की जय। श्री तुलसी महारानी वृंद देवी की जय। श्री भक्ति देवी की जय। श्री पूर्णमासी योगमाया की जय। श्री गोपेश्वर महादेव की जय। श्री हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। समागत गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। श्री सीता ठाकुरानी की जय। अद्वैत आचार्य शक्ति श्री सीता ठाकुरानी श्रीमती सीता ठाकुरानी देवी की जय। तदीय शुभ आविर्भाव तिथि की जय। श्री निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। वृंदाय तुलसी देवाय प्रियाय केशवाचार्य कृष्ण भक्ति पद देवी सत्यवताय नमो नमः। वंशाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। Dandava pranams. Oh, and there's a picture here. This is what we just read today. Let's see, is there enough light? Yeah. There's not enough light. Let's put it here. So it's backwards. So see, there's Indra coming to Lord Brahma. And see, there's Shiva, all the other demigods. Hi. Jai Shri Radhe. See you all tomorrow. Prajumna Prabhu? Oh, I just read little parts from that book. But yeah, that book is really very fascinating. Srila Gaur Govinda Goswami Maharaj. All right. If anybody wants the link to know of to hear about Srila Gaur Govinda Goswami Maharaj's extraordinary life, and not just his life, but also his whole family, comes from a very amazing family. Let me know, and I can send you the link to those two books. All right. Haribol.